So hello to my one participant at the moment, but if this goes quite well, then I will actually upload it to YouTube and Facebook or wherever else. Obviously, I'm David Lang. I'm the managing editor, writer, and basically jack of all trades of Israeli Cool. And, I've been threatening to do a live video for a while now, but these weren't the circumstances in which I thought I would lose my video virginity. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, as the joke goes or the cliche goes. When you're in a job interview and you're asked what is your biggest weakness, what's the answer that everyone pretty much answers? Yep, exactly. I'm a perfectionist, and I am in this regard. I haven't been anonymous for over 7 months now, and I always thought in my mind that once I wasn't anonymous anymore with my Israel advocacy, that I would then, be doing videos. But, I've been taking my time a bit. I wanted to set things up. I wanted to get the right equipment. I wanted the audio to be good. I wanted the video quality to be good. And, I was pretty much procrastinating on this. And then you've seen what's happened. I mean, the world is a different place. We've woken up in a sci-fi novel. It's absolutely unbelievable. And we see that there's now a prevalence of these kinds of sessions. And I wanted to put my pride aside, and things don't have to be perfect. I might be a perfectionist in this way, but you know what we could all do with the distraction because of the situation. Just as much as whoever is tuning into this, which currently looks like one other person, but hopefully more people will hear the recording. I think that it's also a big distraction for me in a good way to be able to talk to you. The situation is crazy. So anyway, I'm doing this. I'm going commando, as it were. And, it's a big risk because, I'm cooped up in a house with 5 children. All my kids are at home and 2 dogs, and they can bark. And when they all join forces, they can make a lot of noise. There was some drilling going on a few minutes ago outside. That might start again. Okay, whatever. Doesn't have to be perfect. I've kind of let go. Anyway, so I'm going to just, as I said, go commando, fly by the seat of my pants, be very spontaneous in this. I plan that this session would be about half an hour, maybe it'll be less. It probably won't be too much more. I'm using Zoom, as you can see, and I've got the free account. So I just set it up recently. And there's a limit as to the duration of any meetings. I think it's 40 minutes for a free account. So I'm limited in that way. And also, I actually have a wedding to go to soon. Yep. An online wedding. So a very good friend of mine. Their son is getting married at, I think it's 6-ish. And it's going to be online, unfortunately, for all, the obvious reasons, given everything that's going on. So it was going to be Q&A. So if no one can hear me in live, I guess there aren't going to be many questions coming. If anyone can hear me, please put your questions in the chat pane and I'll try to get to them. In the meantime, rather than waiting for your questions, I mean, I got some questions beforehand, but I didn't prepare any answers. I might get to some of them and just spontaneously try to answer them. But what I wanted to talk about a little bit was the current situation, the elephant in the room, as it were. So I have some thoughts on this. I've heard some rabbis speak about it. Being a practicing Jew, I like to listen to what rabbis have to say about situations like this. Smarter people than me, for sure. And maybe what I'm about to say now might be controversial. Maybe it'll be inspirational. I'm hoping it's more inspirational than controversial. Excellent. Okay, Galaxy A8, welcome. Now you can hear me, so no excuses for not sending a question my way. Okay, but I'm going to just say a few things about coronavirus and the current situation. Look, it's obviously, we've woken up in a sci-fi novel. We all feel that way, and it's scary. All the rules have changed. But I do, and I don't want to be cliched here or flippant, but I think there is some light at the end of the tunnel. And I do believe that there's a purpose to all of this. And basically, I believe that nothing happened. I'm a God-fearing person. I believe in a higher being. Maybe not all of you do, but hear me out. Because, you know, I don't like the idea that everything is random, and I don't believe that that's how we came into existence, through just random occurrence. But what I believe is that this is a big test for us. And the test is, we have a great opportunity now to make society a better place. Now, some of you might be scratching your head going, what the heck are you talking about? Everything is terrible, the markets are crashing, and we're cooped up in our houses, we're in quarantine, or we're just under partial or full lockdown. How can you say that? But hear me out. Obviously, with the rules that most of us, I can't speak for all of you who are outside of Israel. In Israel, we have this partial lockdown. You can only go outside for necessities, and you're trying to avoid contact with people and be at least 2 meters away from them, etc., etc. But we have a good opportunity now to think about, we're being forced to think about other people in our society, not just our friends and family, but the greater society, and in fact the world. We're all responsible for each other, because if some of us flout the rules, we can end up, you know what's going to hit the fan, and it's going to be this crazy, things are going to get worse, way worse. So we have a certain element of control as to the severity of this crisis. So if we follow the rules, then we can actually, and think about others, not just ourselves. You hear some young people or people who feel very strong and healthy, they'll say something like, yeah, I've got nothing to worry about, I'm not going to get sick. So I'm going to, go out, I'm going to go to the bar, the pub, I'm going to do all this stuff. And that's the wrong attitude. And these people are failing the test. Now, these aren't just young people, Zoomers. I saw a video today about some kids, young teenagers, or 20-year-olds, college students wanting to party. And they were bemoaning the fact, and they're like, no, we're going to party. We came here and we're going to party. And that involves being in crowds and doing all the wrong things and creating a danger for all of us, because this thing can really spread. So, and to the other extreme, you've got people, religious people, I say religious in inverted commas, people that at least dress like they're religious, who want to, study in their seminaries, and they think that God will protect them, even though they're crowded and they're, one-on-one, facing each other. No way there's 2 meters between them. And they're also being very irresponsible. And I think they're also failing the test, which we all under. And this is, but then on the other hand, you see great, people doing the right thing. They're staying at home. They're doing, distance learning, and they're doing sessions for other people, or listening to sessions from other people. Some people are even offering to do some errands, doing the groceries for the more immunocompromised old people, or people with illnesses. And I think that's what we're supposed to do. Now, if we're not selfish and we do this stuff, I think the world, when the dust clears, please God, may it be sooner rather than later, will live in a much, much better society. And, I base this on a shiur, a lesson that I listened to the other day from a Rabbi, Manis Friedman. Look it up on YouTube if you want to hear someone more articulate than me talk about these things. But I was definitely inspired by it. And I really believe that we can make the world a better place. Also, the markets are crashing. I don't need you I don't need to tell that to you, especially those of you that are following. But I'm not following it anymore. And I think that's also another thing, to detach from all that stuff. You know what? I'll look back at it in a few years, and hopefully I'll have my pension in there still. But I'm not going to worry about it right now. We have an opportunity to also spend time with our families, to spend time with our children, to spend with them, and do, as I said, do good. So I believe, therefore, that I'm looking at the light at the end of the tunnel. I know it might be a bit of a cliche, but I really firmly believe this, and I'd like to hear your thoughts, whether in the chat now or after the fact, when I post the recording. Hopefully then I'd like to hear what you have to say about it. But I really believe we can do the right thing now. And I was also hoping that there'd be more unity, and there is to some extent. But then the anti-Semites and the haters, they're not stopping. They're even getting worse. They're blaming this on us. And I think because they've got even more time on their hands now than they did beforehand, which was quite a lot from what I've seen. And they've just gone into overdrive spreading their hate. So I think, there are a lot of people out there that are actually failing the test. But I think those of us that want to do good and take this opportunity to spend time with our family, detach, stop worrying about financial markets and things like that, try to help people who, are less fortunate than yourself. whether, you know, with money or with, excuse me, don't worry, I'm okay. That was just a cough from the dust. You know, let's do it. Let's make things better. And I don't mean it to sound cliched. I don't mean it to sound trite. I really believe this, that there is a purpose to this madness. Anyway, if you agree with me, great. If you don't, not so great, but, you know, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Okay, so that was what I wanted to say about the current situation. Any questions that you want me to cover? I'll wait a few seconds. And if not, maybe I'll just look through some questions that I received before this session. So let me wait a few number of seconds. No questions. Okay. So before this session, I, you know, put it on social media and I got a number of, let's have a look, sorry. No. Okay. I got a number of questions or, you know, topics that people might want me to cover. Now, I might do more of this. I guess I'll ask you guys if you found it useful. And you know what? Even if you say no, maybe I'll do it anyway, just for my own distraction. Okay, so I had a number of comments. One that stuck out. I like this one. 1 second, let me bring it up. Someone said, where is it? I told you I wasn't so prepared for this, but I thought I actually copied and pasted. Someone said something like, you know what, we want facts. I want facts. I don't want you to impose your opinions on us. Oops, looks like I dismissed that one. Okay, I'll try to talk some facts as well, but there'll definitely be opinion in there. Why the Jewish why can't the Jewish organizations unite to coordinate and fund a media campaign to match or exceed the Pallywood media narrative? So it's a good question. I can't speak on behalf of Jewish organizations, but, you know, I believe that, well, I'll answer this in 2 steps. First of all, why can't they? And secondly, is that the answer, to have a media campaign to match or exceed their narrative? Why can't Jewish organizations unite to coordinate? Okay, sorry to the person that said, don't impose your facts, your opinions on us, just facts. It has to be an opinion. I believe that many unfortunately, many Jewish organizations, by their nature, they're non-profits, and they are jockeying for funds. And we saw that the Israel Project, for example, is no more. They couldn't get the funds. You know, it's a crowded space. You have Stand With Us, you have Honest Reporting, you have a number of other organizations. And watch this space, because I want Israeli Cool. I'm hoping to become a non-profit too. Yes, there's a bit of a scoop for you there. And I believe they're jockeying for money. And so sometimes there's a bit of, I wouldn't say healthy competition. I think it's quite unhealthy. And therefore they're trying to outdo each other. I would love to see more coordination. There are some efforts to coordinate behind the scenes, more informal rather than funding a media campaign. You know, I know many of us who are Israel advocates, just through social media, are collaborating. We're sharing each other's stuff. So, you know, I get sent a bunch of stories. You know, part of my content curation is being sent actually from readers and other people in this space, you know, kind of new tips, story tips, and then I can kind of flesh it out and do a post on it. So, you know, I think there is some coordination, but to fund a sort of a glitzy media campaign, I'm not sure that's the answer. I think there's much to be said for the grassroots, to empowering, especially the students on campus, to be able to put forward our case. It shouldn't only be defensive and reactive, but also, you know, like what I try to do, I try to go on the offense, you know, exposing anti-Semitism in the anti-Zionist space and things like that. Look, it's an uphill battle, and we might never win that, you know, the online demonization against us. We might not be able to prevail, but we have to do our best. And at the end of the day, I firmly believe we're in the right, and we have morality and history on our side, and hopefully that will prevail. But unfortunately, in the society that we live in right now, evil seems to be prevailing in many spheres. So we'll have to see how it goes. So that's my unprepared answer for that particular question. Why? Another question was why the anti-Israel narrative has overtaken universities. What can we do? I kind of touched on that already. So first of all, why has it overtaken? I think because it's the sexier narrative. Also because the students are subjected to brainwashing, not just from other students, but actual professors, the leftists, the progressives. And it's a combination. It's sort of more woke. Again, I'm going to get sore fingers from all my punctuation marks, but it's more woke to sort of side with the underdog, and it's all this intersectionality, and we're not part of the, the minorities under the rubric of intersectionality. Jews have been kind of pushed out because on one hand, even though we're a minority, if you look at power structures, there's all these tropes about Jews being powerful and rich and white, which none of that is true. I mean, you have some which are more wealthy, but hey, I've got a mortgage and most of you do, and I don't control the media as much as I'd like to because the media coverage is terrible for us. So that's the prevailing narrative, and it's it's a problem. And yeah, so anyway, so we're not part of the intersectionality, and that's kind of the sexy thing to think. And we're white, again, we're not. And if you look at the spectrum of Jews, I look really white. I mean, I'm not Ethiopian and I'm not Mizrahi, I've got light skin. But I'm just as indigenous to the land of Israel as anyone else. I can trace back to the tribe of Levi, and I perform rituals according to the tribe of Levi when I go to the synagogue. And we have to basically, so what to do? We have to enforce, or let's say reinforce, that narrative of us being indigenous to the land and be very proud in it. And I know this isn't something that I started. My friend Ryan Bellerose, he was the first I know of that was spreading. He's a Metis Indian, so he was spreading this indigenous narrative, and a lot of people, including our Prime Minister, for how long I don't know, Netanyahu, have picked up on that, and many other people have kind of gone along with this narrative, and I believe it's the right one, and it's true, and history's on our side, genetics are on our side, and we just basically have to be proud Jews. And those of you who are not Jewish, proud supporters of the Jewish people. Okay, I'm just looking at the clock, so I think theoretically there's another 10 minutes before we get booted off this call, so let's maybe have a look at some other questions that I received or topics. Excuse me. So there was some suggestion that I interview Ariel Gold. Oh, that'll be good. Considering she's blocked me on Twitter, and she doesn't block many at Journal Scene much better. All I will say is I think that our political system is a bit broken with the current system, with so many small parties holding ransom the larger parties who are trying to form a mandate. And we'll just leave it at that. I don't think I'm the right person to speak about Israeli politics, but maybe I could bring on a guest who has more knowledge and we could have a discussion around that. Okay, 1 second. So now I'm going to go to, Galaxy A8, not your real name, of course, has asked the question, do you believe Trump has been good for the Jews? Or has he put the spotlight on us and is in part responsible for the recent surge of anti-Semitism? Whoa, okay. So no matter how I answer this, it's going to be controversial because Trump is a controversial guy. I think I've been pretty clear in my writings where I stand on Trump, but I'll repeat it. I believe that Trump has, let's say, is he good for the Jews or not? And it's multi-layered. It's not a simple answer. He's a very divisive character. So in that sense, there is a risk that by supporting or promoting or acting in a way that seems ostensibly supportive of Israel, then the people who instinctively or reactively against Trump might be against us. Okay, they're not really thinking things through, and we can't do much about that. I think that whereas Trump is not someone I would necessarily want to have over for a Shabbat meal and hang out with him, I don't find him to be a particularly nice person on a personal level. I'm trying to be honest and evaluate intellectually honest and evaluate each of his actions on their merits. So many of his things I really agree with and I think have been good for us I think, you know, moving the capital to Jerusalem has been great. Yeah, you're going to get a backlash, but it had to be done. It is our capital, and we need to stand by that. That's one example. You know, recognizing our sovereignty over the Golan and the, you know, Judea and Samaria, or at least to the extent that saying it's not illegal under international law is important. And again, there will always be a backlash, and there'll be people that don't agree. But I believe we need to recognise that history, that is history, and even international law, there's definitely a case to be made that it's not illegal. Now, does that preclude the idea of us wanting peace or somehow coming to some negotiation? No. It doesn't have to preclude that. You can have rightful claims to a particular land under international law, but still say, you know what, we somehow are willing to sacrifice some of that. I won't go into that now, but then again, you know, when he pulled out the US out of Syria so quickly, you know, I wasn't so for that. It's a very complicated situation. I wasn't sure that he'd given enough forethought to that. So what I guess I'd say to that question, you know, to summarize, and we have about 4 minutes, so I want to kind of finish up, is that has he been good for the Jews? I'd say yes and no, but I wouldn't blame I wouldn't say he's in part responsible for the recent surge of anti-Semitism. Some of you might disagree and say, oh, he's been too, you know, tolerant of right-wing extremists. I'm not sure that's necessarily true. I see actually the anti-Semitism within the left as way more dangerous for us, and I've written about this. Sure, there's right-wing anti-Semitism, but the difference there is I believe that most reasonable people see it for what it is, and you know, these are outliers, and although it can, of course, end up in violence and has tragically done so, I believe that these people are ostracized accordingly, and we need to deal with them. But like, why I say that the left-wing anti-Semitism, the progressive anti-Semitism is more dangerous is because so many otherwise good people are buying into this stuff and they don't recognize it as anti-Semitism. Anyway, so that's probably a topic that I should give more you know, time to in future. I see we're about to run out of time. So I'm going to wrap things up there. So thanks to everyone that joined today. After this, I'm going, hopefully, if this recorded well, then I will upload it and I'll ask for your feedback if I should do another session like this. On a selfish level, I enjoyed doing it. It was a great distraction for me. And hopefully you guys got something out of this as well. And hopefully this will be the start of a beautiful friendship. Okay, for now, shalom, adios from Israel. And most importantly, everyone, please be careful, be safe, be healthy. Take care.